There it is. There it is. The Rebel Nation, John. We're 10Xing it.
That's right. We're going to 10X everything from now on, Pete. 10X.
I like it.
Which, by the way, we do have a pretty big winner to share with you guys. We'll do that in a minute or so. But welcome to the Rebel Edge. This is the last Rebel Edge of the week. He is Pete Najarian. I'm John Najarian. We've got Jared handling all of the difficult duties like this one. That's a snowboarding bear, is it? I think.
You saw that he ran off the screen because there ain't no bears in the market, John.
Just like there aren't any, gosh, Pete, what do they always say? There's no atheists in the foxhole.
Ain't that the truth?
You start praying to whoever if you're in that damn foxhole. But folks, we're coming your way from Barbados on my end. And Pete, are you in an undisclosed location or are you in Florida?
I'm in Western Florida and loving life. I got the Gulf out here looking like $1 million. We've got a record turtle season of eggs, and my wife's excited about that. She keeps track of it every day. And yeah, it's beautiful. Although this 100-degree weather is turning the water into about 95-degree water. So all you do is you get wet. You don't get cold. You don't get cooled off. You get wet. That's it.
I told our host down here I didn't think his water was wet enough. But by the way, Pete, those turtles, they make good soup.
Yeah, good Lord. Don't tell the turtle people that. They go crazy when I joke about that.
That's Burgess Meredith from Rocky, you guys, in case all of you think I want to kill a bunch of loggerhead turtles or something.
By the way, turtles, John, these son of a bees are anywhere between 250 and 350, maybe 400 pounds, some of them. I mean, they're big. So when we say turtles, it's not just some little thing or whatever. I mean, these giants are dropping 100 eggs into a hole and then burying it up and then head out to sea. So it's very, very cool. It's very cool.
I agree. You know what else is cool? The Macro Minute. The Macro Minute is today, Pete. U.S. economy grew at a faster than expected pace, 2.4%. The only problem is, Pete, that inflation's still up over 4%.
Yeah.
Just throwing that out there. What do you got?
Yeah, people don't want to focus on the core inflation. They just keep going back and forth. And the core is what everybody's kind of looking at, still going, hey, I'm going to give you the treasuries, John, and here's why. Whenever we have a market like we've had, one of the things that can maybe jiggle things off a little bit and maybe get us to turn the other way might be the 10-year or the 2-year. And I would say this, keep an eye on the 2-year. It's fast approaching 5. That's kind of a critical area. The 10-year, 394 today. It's moved up from 372 just a week or so ago. It's moving up close to 4. And what we've seen so far this year is you get about a 4% on the 10-year. People start saying, you know what, I'm going to go there and I'm going to sell some stocks. So keep an eye on that. It's a great tell.
All right, we will. How about this, Pete? Meta. Love him or hate him, Zuck came up with some pretty damn good numbers yesterday.
Hey, you shot past the fantastic futures. I don't want to interrupt you or anything, but
well, fantastic futures. You're right.
Jumped right over it.
By it. I was so excited to talk about Meta, Pete. But let's talk about this. Wheat, it's up 10% since July 11th. That ain't that long ago, folks. Mm-hmm. And for all you folks that, like me, eat gluten, you're probably paying a lot more for whatever you're buying that has wheat in it.
Well, I'm going to give you this one, John. Short and sweet, because I've talked about it almost every single day. But how about a little sweet crude? If you take a look at what's happening with crude oil, I've been talking about 80 and pushing that everybody needs to keep an eye on what's going on. It's not just 80, John. It's 80.50 when we came on today. So it is moving higher and higher. Keep an eye when you're going to the gas station, folks. We talk about the volatility. You pull out food, you pull out gas, all that energy. Let me tell you something. You're seeing crude make a very big move, which means gasoline prices are going to make a big move very fast because they always go up faster than they come down, John. And that's something to keep an eye on as well.
Well, in California, Pete, gasoline's already $4.93. That's average. I'm sure there are higher prices in LA. In Chicago, it's 394. The national average is 371. So you are right. It is moving up, and it's moving up fast again. And it tends to be sticky once it's done that, folks.
And I'll tell you real quick, John, we were at 316 here in Florida about a week and a half ago. The second this started making this move and we got up over 80, and today, I looked before it got up over 80 today, we were at 370. So it's already moving, and I guarantee you tomorrow morning when I go by that same sign, it's going to be 388.
Yeah. Well, the economy and inflation are the two biggest concerns on voters' minds, Pete, according to a Harvard study just a week ago. And I imagine they're even more in focus this week. All right. Now we get to talk about Zuckerberg. Okay.
Yep.
He beats on top line, which is sales. They expected just under 31 billion. He brings in 32 bill. Then they beat on bottom line, 298 versus 287, which was expected. And then, Pete, they guided above consensus. That's what's known as a three-peat or a triple. That's fantastic, and it's certainly good enough for driving them back over the trillions again.
That's an unbelievable numbers that they put up, and they're unreal in every single way. I mean, also headcount, John, down 14% year over year. That's something interesting to keep an eye on. They've been doing a great job with that because a lot of folks holding on to people, and you know, we don't want to see anybody lose jobs, but sometimes you've maybe overhired and maybe you've got to adjust, and that's exactly what Zuckerberg has done a great job with. On top of that, John, how about this? You gave away the great numbers. They're all there. Earnings, revenue, you name it, they did it. But how about the free cash flow? $11 billion. So these guys are doing just about everything right. And you look at their daily active users and monthly active users, all those numbers are pristine. These guys are crushing it. That's why today the stock hit a new high.
And Pete, you know what? Just days ago, we had unusual option activity.
Shocking.
Now, a lot of you folks sort of hear about that from us, and I'm sure you must question it a little bit. But yet another, and I'll be putting out a BOGO on this one, Pete. Buy one, get one free, folks. So if you go to marketrebellion.com/bang, you'll get 2 months for the price of one, which is a BOGO. But look at what they were buying, Pete. They were buying the August 380 calls. That was with Meta trading. They were buying the 280 calls, Pete, in August. 280 calls in August. They were what, 19 or 20 bucks in the money last night, but they were still buying that call. Well, those went to over $42 today. So, you know, if you're talking about buying 1,000 shares of a $300 stock, that's 300 grand. Instead, you could have put 20 grand down. That would be 10 options that were trading for $20. You could have bought those, and you turned that 20 grand, Pete, instead of 300,000, you turn that 20 grand into $42,000. Bang!
Seems like
that's
a
why
pretty good
we
number.
do it.
Yeah.
That's why we do it. All right. Let's jump on a line, Pete. ALGN. So I think you actually used a product like this. Maybe it was even Visalign, Pete. I can't remember. But this is an orthotic device that basically, you know, it's a clear device. You put it in just like when people are getting their teeth whitened, like a tray. Put it in, helps straighten out your teeth. Well, this one is up 19% today because they crushed it every which way they could, Pete.
Yeah, and they did everything right. They're very much like Meta, John. Take a look at that. They beat on their earnings. They crushed their revenue, over $1 billion in revenue. I think it was their first time. But what really stuck out for me was two other things. The gross margins, 71.2% on the gross margins, which is an increase. Unbelievable numbers. And how about free cash flow? It's $500 million. These guys are doing everything right. You can understand why the stock's up anywhere between 19, 20%, whatever it is today. Their guidance above estimates. They did everything right. They continue to do everything right.
It's a pretty amazing report, and they are not a cheap stock either, Pete.
No.
That stock has been flying. All right, let's talk a little bit, Pete, about eBay, because this is one of them that did stink it up. I mean, They're still down, not double digits, but they're down pretty hard. Earnings disappointed. The guidance fell short, and analysts are pretty cautious, probably because of those exact reasons, Pete.
It's almost like the exact opposite of a line, John. They missed on the margins. Their gross volume was down. Their guidance they missed. I mean, they couldn't have done anything worse. And that, unfortunately, has been something that we've heard fairly, consistently, it seems like, out of eBay. They just haven't been able to really get it turned and get it right. And this has been going on now for a while. So this is one of those names where you look at it, you go, you know what could they do possibly wrong? Why wouldn't this thing grow? And you ask all those questions, but all of a sudden you see these earnings and you say, well, they're struggling. So until they can actually prove it to us, I think this is one of those where you just kind of stay away and you can find other areas where you still have better opportunities than you do here.
Yep. I would not disagree with that, Pete. I think eBay's just not an exciting stock. I mean, I'm sure they'll come out with something, Pete, about AI. Oh, well, we got the new eBay AI and some jerk will buy it, but they better not hold on to it very long. All right, let's talk about Crocs. Your favorite shoes, Pete.
I love them.
Pete's a big Crocs fan, by the way, folks. And they reported earnings for the footwear company, and they're just the first of many. Deckers and Skechers are both coming out with earnings as well. And apparently this is one of the places, Pete, that consumers were still spending, but not so much on your Crocs, though, Pete.
Well, here's the problem, John. They are spending and they are on Crocs, but the company isn't just Crocs. They also have Hey Dude. And that's where it seemed like the problem really became an issue. Because when you look at things, they actually raised the outlook. That seems like something that would be pretty bullish. Normally you and I say, hey, when you do that, it's going to start to really scream to the upside. But the problem was they've got these two different divisions. And when you look at Hey Dude, that one really struggled. That one was the reason. And I think for right now, I think that could change. But because of that, this is one where on the fact that they've gone to the downside as hard as they have, I'd be inclined to say maybe to start taking a little bit of a taste in here. Maybe not getting the whole position, very much like you always tell people, look, you start with something, maybe you start adding to it another time, but you start with a small portion of it. This is one of those times where I look at this, and if their outlook is correct, I think Hey Dude maybe has an opportunity to make that turn. Then all of a sudden we see Crocs start to move back up to the upside.
Yep. I think that you nailed it, Pete, about the Hey Dude brand being troublesome for them. And, this is one of those things, if you're going to chase the hot stock of the moment that's private and all of a sudden you throw it into your offerings and your buyers aren't really that interested in that, then they've got to bring over a lot of their audience. Mm-hmm. And at least so far that isn't happening.
Right.
All right. Let's talk for a little bit, Pete, about sports, because there was yet another record contract in football.
Yeah.
But it's not the football you're thinking of, folks.
That was very nicely done. Well, let me tell you this, John. Yesterday, Glenn and I were here. You were not able to do it. Glenn joined me and we talked about, hey, man, these guys are breaking the bank. And I'm talking primarily about the quarterbacks. It's not the running backs, because the running backs can't get paid. Nobody wants to pay them. I think that's a bit of a mistake personally, and we'll see how that all plays out. But we did see Saquon actually get a contract the other day, $10 million, right? And, that's actually a big number right now for a running back. Well, let me tell you something, John. How about Justin Herbert, 5 years, $262.5 million. So in other words, a little more than $50 million a year. Jalen Hurts, 5 years, $255 million. You've got Lamar Jackson, 5 years, $260 million. These numbers are extraordinary, and they keep getting bigger. Now, we already talked about a lot of that yesterday. Jaylen Brown signed for $303 million over 5 years in basketball in the NBA for Boston. So there are some huge numbers. But how about this guy? And by the way, Joe Burrow is going to be next, and Joe Burrow is going to break it. It's going to be 5 years. I'm going to give you a prediction right now. It might be $275 million when he finally signs it. I think that's going to be a monster contract, John. But what if I told you there's a guy out there named Kylian Mbappe? Okay, you and I don't know. We don't follow enough soccer to know these guys. But let me tell you something. He's 24 years. Huh?
It's football.
It's football somewhere, but it ain't here, John.
F-U-T. That kind of football.
Saudi Arabia Soccer Club gave this guy, here was the offer. We're going to give you $322 million on a transfer fee. We're going to give you $776 million in salary for the grand total of $1.1 billion for 1 year. This isn't a 5 year. It's not a 3 year. This is 1 year. Now, you and I both know these guys just will throw money around, right? I mean, we've seen it with golf. We've seen it with a lot of different other sports, but have you ever even imagined that a guy could be making $1 billion in a year in sports? There's no way. You know, John, the thing is, it's amazing because they'll throw the money away, not because they're going to get it back, but because they can. Yeah. That's what it comes down to, right?
Well, and like you said, Pete, apparently, at least the way I read it, he can play this 1 year contract that Pete's talking about, folks, for $770 million. He could still play for Real Madrid next summer. So this is his half-year salary, Pete. You got to wonder, how is he going to be motivated to play for Real Madrid if he makes $770 million playing for half the year down in Saudi Arabia? Oh my God. Yeah. I love it. I think Paris Saint-Germain is probably loving it too, Pete, because they're getting that $332 million transfer fee you mentioned. Everybody wins.
Why not? Just have a big party. It's a lot of money, but what the hell? Why not? Have a little bit of fun. All right, John, we talk about Ohtani all the time, but this time it's not just because we want to, because this guy's unbelievable, but how about this? The owner now of the Angels finally kind of woke up and said, I think we need to keep this guy. And so he pulled back the reins on all this trade speculation and everything that was going on there. They got two big prospects right out of your old backyard. The White Sox, Chicago White Sox, they got a right-hander, Lucas Giolito, and then you've got a reliever, John, Ronaldo Lopez. Now, this is pretty interesting because if you are Ohtani and you see that the team is finally saying, you know what, we're going to build a little something around you. We think we've got a shot. We've won 6 of the last 7 games, and we are on a bit of a roll. And Ohtani continues to be unbelievable at the plate, continues to be unbelievable pitching. He's still, I think, John, in the top 4 for strikeouts or something like that. I mean, it's just unbelievable. And from the plate, he leads the entire major leagues with 36 home runs. I mean, what else could he do? But I think they finally woke up. So I'll put this one to you. What do you think if you were the GM of this team? Would you trade him for a boatload of people, boatload of different players, or do you hold on to this guy and just try to ride him and do what they're doing, which is you've added a couple of more arms, that's for sure, and that is something they need. But you add a couple arms and maybe you can get somewhere pretty deep into the playoffs in the Major League Baseball.
Yeah, and it's about selling seats, Pete. It's about getting that TV revenue we spoke of, because, again, they don't share. So the Yes Network in New York, those 2 teams in New York don't share with the rest of the league. They only share for the national game. So I think this owner is smart because, number one, it's a once-in-a-lifetime player. And number 2, he needs to put the butts in the seats as well as build up his TV audience. And nothing will do that more than a young pitcher who has all of those unbelievable numbers and has hit 36 home runs, by the way.
Yeah, I'll tell you, Artie Moreno, John, is the owner, and you got to love him. We've got an Armenian general manager, by the way, who's kind of doing some of the negotiations. So you and I have to appreciate that as well. Very much like the Kardashians, the Armenian women, they're always in their glory. And so, we always have to support each other. There's only so much of us out there, but in all truth with the Angels, it's just, I think they're doing the right thing. I never liked the idea of letting the best player of our time go to somebody else. I think you got to keep them.
Yep. And they are. So that's the good news, Pete. All right. Well, I appreciate all of you guys tuning in. Remember, we don't do the Rebels Edge live tomorrow, but Pete still does his early morning walks. And you can find that on his Twitter handle, which is just Pete Najarian. You can get my 60-second update, which is at John Najarian, Jon no H. And we will be back Monday with more Rebels Edge. Tell a friend. We'll see you Monday.